called The Wild Rider, and I was going for that medieval flavor with the castle and the squire on his horse. He's going to visit his girlfriend. It's called Troubadour Serenade, and I had my parents pose for me, and I was trying to get like a balcony effect with him singing. He's like, solamente una vez, and then she is flirting from her balcony. So that was a fun project. It was actually the Avocado Festival, and this dancer is Marisol, our housekeeper that we had for many years, and we used her as a model for several paintings. And then this is, it kind of looks like Juan, who was a guy that stayed at my grandma's house when I was a little kid. And this is my student Max, who played the accordion and the piano. So anyway, this was a very special chapter in our lives when they had Ballet Folklorico in Fallbrook at the art studio where my mom taught. So she got to see the students practicing when she was teaching art classes. This is my interpretation of a Pegasus, which was inspired by the horses that I visit every day when I jog, Uncle Julius and McNamara. And so I was just thinking of my fantasy of a Pegasus horse is my buddy, and the beauty and the majesty of the muscular horse is just so appealing. So this is my Pegasus in the moonlight. This was a very special student I had, Charlotte, and she was the embodiment of an angel. I mean, she was so cooperative, she was so enthusiastic, and just the sweetest girl ever. And this was also featured in a book as Angel of Confidence by Darlene Fall. She did a series of angel books that I participated in. This is my niece Bridget, and I got inspired by an Antiques Roadshow where there was a girl in a white dress that was like $16 million or something. Anyway, I thought, oh, I want to paint girls in white dresses. So I had my nieces and my sister come and pose. This was part of my Girls in White Dresses series. Well, okay, so she's not in a white dress, but she's got her white umbrella. So this is my mom at the beach. Oh, it's a combination of me and my mom. This is my niece Zoe. So I had my nieces and my sister come and pose in white dresses with parasols. And this is a koi pond down the road from us, which we used to like to go and trespass and take pictures by their pond. This is my sister Roxanne in a white dress. She did ballroom dancing, so she knows how to pose. This is a raccoon. which came to our house and was taking the dog food, which I had put out on a cardboard because it got ants in it, so I was trying to get rid of the ants, and then this raccoon was like, mine, mine. And I got a ribbon on it at the fair this year, 2023. This is my trumpet still life. I borrowed a trumpet from a student, Stanley, and so I was just using some peonies and some Matilaha poppies leaves. This is called the Waters of March. So it was kind of a combination of Valley Center landscape and the Rainbow Creek, which I jog by every morning. And then I enhanced it with some flowers. This is Yucca Road in Fallbrook, and as you drive down that road, it's not exactly this curvy and simple, but I just kind of took the feeling of it and tried to turn it more remote. Donna is a very special friend and student of mine. She's like 81 and she's exceedingly advanced. So we just play piano, we play duets and just have fun. She lives in Bird Road up on a hill, and this is the view I see every time I'm coming down from her driveway. And I'm just captivated by it every time. So I did a couple different paintings on it. This is called Folklorico at the Mission. And so I used my footage from the Avocado Festival of my student, Lucia. And so this is Lucia, and then these are her friends, and I just love Ballet Folklorico. I just love the music and the costumes. Everything about it is just like, it rings my bell. This is a painting I did after a trip that Randy and I took to Santa Barbara, and they had mariachis roaming around the streets serenading people, and these are the people sitting around watching. It was very exciting. This is Gypsy Flamenco 2. I guess I've had a fascination with gypsies over the years because of learning Hungarian Rhapsodies by Franz Liszt, and so I just wanted to know, how did the gypsies write all this amazing music and it's so fiery and everything? Well, actually the gypsies just kind of took popular songs and played them whenever they performed. But so I just tried to capture the liveliness of a gypsy encampment, like as if they were practicing their music and dancing, just having fun. So this is my boyfriend Randy playing guitar and my dad playing the saxophone. And I was singing some verses. This is called Angel Band. And you might say, well, why are you painting angels playing instruments? Well, I guess it's because of all the Christmas cards I've seen, and I was borrowing a trumpet from a student, and so I was trying to use the trumpet as much as possible before I gave it back to him. And so I did a still life with a trumpet, and then I just had my family pose with musical instruments, and I always enjoy the notion of angels having fun playing music. So this is called Horse Cart Through the Vineyard Hills, and so I'm just really excited about horses right now because there's 2 horses that I visit every day on my jog, and I named them Uncle Julius and McNamara from that song, "My name is McNamara, I'm the leader of the band." And so I like to feed them carrots. And so this is just my fantasy of a horse-drawn carriage through the vineyards. This is Bronwyn and Timo in the pasture, which is very personal to me because these are 2 young calves, boys, that I visited every day jogging, and they were just the sweetest, most adorable cows, and they actually had different voices. Like Timo was black and he had a very low voice, and then Bronwyn, the brown one, had like a higher voice, and they would be. I had a very special student, a lady in her late 70s, who was very enthusiastic, and she had a lot of ideas and visions and stuff. So she was doing a book about a dragon that wanted to save the world, so she had me do a picture for that, and then she said, "Natasha, I have this great idea. You should do paintings with musical instruments in them." So I did a few different ones, and this is my guitar. I had a lot of fun doing still lifes because we would just set the light, and it really taught me a lot about shadow and light and core shadow and everything. So this is an autumn still life with, of course, a pumpkin and pomegranates. And I used a lot of poetic license by sort of, my original inspiration of this painting was in San Marcos when I was driving to Holy Cross Episcopal Church on Sunday mornings, playing there for 1 year, which is in Carlsbad, and there was this one particular cluster of buildings that really just looked so nicely arranged from the freeway, and I would pass by it and always think, I gotta paint that. So then I just turned it into it. This was a phase I did a series of angel paintings, and also there was a lady, Darlene Fall, who did a book on, she did 3 or 4 books on angels, and so she solicited artwork from local artists, and so this was in her books. And so this was inspired by a student that I had named Charlotte, and this is her mom. This is Charlotte, this is her mom, Christina. They were all just such wonderful people, vegetarians, and just really like on our wavelength, and always so cooperative, and she loved to sing. So anyway, they came to our studio and posed for us. So I used them in a few different paintings. different interpretation of view that I enjoy when I drive to my students' houses on Gerd. And so I kind of broke a road through there. It was actually just like a hillside, but then we kind of cut a road through just to kind of make it more interesting so you could go into the picture. This was a painting I did many years ago when I was teaching several students, a lot of girls around in the 5th grade age range, and so they posed for me, Emily and Charlotte, and they had a lot of creative ideas for their posing. We had a lot of fun. This is a landscape from Vista del Rio. This is a portrait of the Komsky's dogs, and Teddy was a very friendly lab, and Jester was a boxer, and then Sophie was Great Pyrenees. She came up to the fence and leaned over and let me pet her through the fence. She was a very sweet girl. And then this is Chloe, which was their favorite. She snored and she lived in the house. This is called Vineyards on Sanderson's Road. So this is from Rainbow Heights Road, and it's right up by Lori Sanderson's, where she was a friend of ours from childhood. And then I just took some license and put vineyards on the side. This is called Cats in the Parlor, and it features a cat that I had for about 6 months, Renoir Cesare. Inspirational professor I had at Palomar. She is a songwriter and an arranger. She had a jazz choir called Spectrum, which I was in for a couple semesters, I think. Anyway, we had such a blast, and she wrote out a lot of great music that our choir performed, and she advised me to go to Fullerton College, where her friend Brent Pierce taught, and so I did. I went there for 1 year and studied with him, and that was really a wonderful experience. I learned so much. I took a lot of commercial theory classes with him, and it was like one of the highlights of my life. And Rhonda was also at Cal State Long Beach, where I saw her again because she was accompanying the choirs there too. And that's where I went for my final years of college, and then she took me out to lunch and when I graduated, and she also knew the Carpenters, and so Rhonda's been a huge inspiration in my life, and we always perform her arrangement of White Christmas every Christmas when we play at parties. My sister was also in Spectrum when she went to Palomar, and she performed a ballet routine which she choreographed to one of Rhonda's original songs called Mary and Joseph. And my sister made a costume with turquoise and chiffon. She made the chiffon veil that connected to her arms, and she did kind of like a Christy Yamaguchi imitation. Like Christy Yamaguchi, the ice skater, was the champion at the time. So that inspired her costume and her choreography. And then I wore that costume for my In the Boundless song and for my album cover. It's called Messenger, and I wanted it to be kind of a Native American theme. So this scenery comes from Zion National Park, and then this girl on the horse is kind of our friend and housekeeper girl, Marisol, which I used as a model for several paintings in Ballet Folklorico. This is called Donna's View over Gird Road. And so this is my first picture of a series of 2 paintings that I did from this gorgeous view that I see every week when I go to do a lesson with Donna, my very advanced piano student, and we mostly play duets together. So I just kind of tweaked it a little bit, but that's the general view. Here's my little ribbon for People's Choice Award at the Del Mar Fair 2023. Scoping the canyon, and I used the view from I-15 coming north from like Valley Center area to Rainbow, and then I had a friend in Rainbow pose on his horse for me. He's a very muscular guy. Saxophone with peonies and hibiscus. So we were generously loaned a saxophone by a friend, and I was doing a series of still lifes with musical instruments. This still life features the oxygen plant, which was given to me by my good friend and former teacher, and she said these plants are very highly valued for the oxygen that they put in the air, and they also have an interesting white flower. It's kind of like a calla lily. So, and this teapot was from a collection of miscellaneous teapots that my grandma Helen had, which I inherited when she passed. So I went out in the shed and dug out all of her teapots and started painting them. This is my buddy Javi Shanti, my indoor cat. He sometimes sleeps with me, and he loves to get in the middle of everything I'm doing, especially when I'm writing music. So this is a very appropriate position for him. This is Moose Encounter at Oxbow Bend in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we took a trip there in 2021, and that was my biggest goal, was to see moose in real life, because I just love moose, and I even wanted to have a restaurant called the Magic Moose. But anyway, this isn't where the moose was that we saw, but we got up early several times and went out and saw moose grazing, and they were kind of quiet and just kind of not doing anything. They were off in the distance. People said you can't get too close to the moose because they might charge and they could kill you. So we had to keep our distance, and one particular female moose we saw we were at feet like this, like, because there's a lot of trees, fallen trees, just in the water. So it's like a grid of fallen branches and stuff, and the moose pick up their feet and walk around through the branches. So that was the most moosey thing that I noticed when we saw them in real life. So that was pretty exciting. This is called Summer Dream, and it was inspired by Franz Bischoff, who did a painting called The Fragrance of Roses or something, and it had some ladies in different colored dresses, and they were like little fairy size, and the roses were large, and some of the ladies were topless, I think. But anyway, so this was my interpretation of a similar theme, and I used a girl that I had, some sisters that I used to teach, and they all posed for me as fairies, and so that was Jill, and then I also had my mom pose, and so I had a lot of fun with it. This painting is called Falcon's Bouquet, and it was very significant in my life because the Christian Science church that I performed and worked for on Wednesday nights for about 12 or 13 years, finally had to close, and it was during COVID when they sold their building, and so they moved, well, they dispersed actually, and then I changed to the Temecula church. And they gave me this bouquet. We did a special concert and had like a going away party. And then they gave me this beautiful bouquet, and the little boy who owned the flowers, his family owns the flowers in Fallbrook Major Market, I think, and his name is Falcon. And so it was a very unusual combination of flowers. I don't know what they were, but I painted like a demon for a couple weeks, and the bouquet got really droopy, and individual flowers died and stuff, but I was able to work with it, and I kind of liked it when they got droopy because they had more personality. This is my dog Trophy, and I had him since I was about 24 until about 30, and he was just my darling dog. Oh my god, he had the loudest bark, and he was so enthusiastic, and he would be like, he would just get so excited when we'd go on a walk, and he was like, intact, so he had a lot of energy, and he was a little bit unpredictable when it came to other dogs, but he had really soft fur. This is called Music Appreciation, and this is a tribute to a special experience I had years ago when I went down Rice Canyon Road. There was a pasture with a whole herd of Highland cattle, Scottish and they were the shaggy ones, but they were young at the time. This family that owned this herd just kept them for pets and let them live their entire lives out. So I think they lived to be about 13 years old. And so when they were really young, they came towards me when I came up to the fence, and all these cows coming toward me, those cute faces, it was so thrilling. And I've had that experience with cows, and I've also seen on YouTube musicians performing for cows. It's called Hot Dog Band, it sold right away. And so this is my second version, and I used the neighbor's dogs, which I used to walk. It was Laddie and Winnie and Laddie, and then that's Yogi, my dog. And so I posed them and I lifted them up like this so that they could be in a position to play musical instruments. This is called Canine Connoisseurs. This was my second self-portrait, as you can see. Playing piano, my favorite thing. This was a very special dress my mom made me, and I wore it for, my first album when I did a concert for my music. And these are my precious, precious babies, Yogi and Horatio. It's called Guitar Cats, and this was a cat named Renoir Cesare, and he would chase his tail around. Like when I was up in my room just like working on songs and had a drum groove playing, he would just like start chasing his tail round and round. This is called Canyon Path, and it is originally from Vista del Rio. I did like a series of 4 paintings of that area and that view, and then I just kind of took some artistic license and put like this little road going through. Called Cock of the Walk, and I did a series of chicken paintings, and this rooster was actually from our neighbors, the Ortizes. They had like some white chickens that would kind of fly and roost up on this tree. And they also had these hens with baby chicks, and they were just scuttling around in our yard. Babies. It was really cute. They were also scratching around in the bark chips, making a mess on our walkway. So, mixed blessing. Promise was frolicking, and she was a newborn colt of the Pettigrews who were raising Hanoverian horses. And I used to teach the kids and the dad. The whole family was very involved with music for a while, and I got to go over and see their animals. Stay there for 3 or 4 hours, and it was 2 twins. Okay, this is Julia, which I featured twice, and Jenny. They were twins, and then Jill and Joanna, and they were all in gymnastics. They were taking piano, and they all liked to sing, and so it was a very interesting family dynamic they had. Just the competitiveness between them, and it was a lot of fun working with it. Just I learned a lot, and they all posed for me as fairies, so I used those girls for a few of my paintings. I did some fairy paintings of each of them. This family of girls, they all had their certain strengths and their pecking order, I guess. They were all like vying for the slot of who's the singer, and Jenny was a vegetarian, outstanding athlete, volleyball player, and I think she became a medical assistant, she became a veterinary assistant, Jill became a musician, and Joanna became a math teacher, and I saw her recently. So anyway, Joanna was the oldest in the family, so she was the valedictorian of this is called sifting sand. This is of my niece Bridget when she was about 1 year old. We took a couple trips to the beach with my sister and Zoe and Bridget when they were kids, and my parents came too. And on that particular day, we all got fried because we were using some old sunscreen that was ineffective, and we also were feeling pretty fat in our bathing suits. So I think after that is when we went vegan. This is the student that I had for about a year, and her sister. I painted the two of them in ballet outfits. Their mom was the principal of the grade school that my mom taught at, I think, but my mom had retired already. But so this lady, the mother of these girls, was a friend of my friend Kathleen that I went to school with since like kindergarten. So this is the generation of children that I could have had, but I never had kids. But anyway, so this is Nina, and so she was a very cooperative student and just like A+ girl. Nina was actually taking ballet, and she studied with the prima ballerina in Fallbrook, and she said, the lady said, "Now girls, let me show you how to put on your skirts or your tutus." And she like say, "Now bring it up to the waist and tie it really tight." And then she made them put their hair up really tight because she had really thick hair, and so it was like very big and bushy when she didn't have it up in a really tight bun. So I thought that ballerina skirts were supposed to be down at the hips. This is Grace, the little sister of Nina, and she had a lot of imagination she was playing around with this gauzy scarf. Actually, they gave me this special gauzy scarf, which I used for a lot of things, but I just liked the way she had such beautiful posture, and she just kind of was taking all kinds of interesting poses as she was looking at the costumes. She was a singer too. She had a beautiful voice. She could just belt. This is Lisa and Yoshi. I had Lisa for about 5 years as a student. Her godmother, who lived on Palomar Mountain, brought her and said she wanted to give Lisa lessons because she could really belt, and she wanted to have a radio program, and she kind of developed nodes on her voice because shouting too much, and she had 2 brothers, one older and one younger. So she was always trying to shout to be heard, so we started out working with her voice. She had a really pretty voice too, but it was a little bit like she was developing nodes on her voice, and we mostly went into piano, and she would write her own lyrics to the songs, like Beethoven's Wig, and she's like, I lost my penny, where's my wig? And then she also had some lyrics about her orange cat who would scratch the piano bench, and she had chickens and some sheep, I think, at her house, and we had so much fun. I mean, Lisa just had so much personality. I thought she could definitely be a comedian. This is called Seahorses. I was making it kind of like with a sunset in the background and the ocean. I was privileged to get a chance to photograph some Arabians of my friend Faye from church, who had, I think at one time she had 9 horses. And this was Leilani, who was actually kind of a rosy color gray, like a rose gray. She was a beautiful horse. But I turned her into a brown horse because I just thought it showed up better in my painting. So Faye ran her horses for me, which I used in many of my paintings. It's called Parade, and this represents my mom because she took some baton lessons as a kid, and she loved to perform, and she wanted to be in a parade so bad, but her mom couldn't afford the baton lessons all the way till the parade, so she never got to perform. But she definitely has a spirit of the parade. And also, I was in the marching band like in high school for 1 year, which I enjoyed quite a bit. So I played the clarinet. So I featured a clarinetist. And I also put a horse in there, which I used to like to go visit on a road. My boyfriend Randy and I used to take night walks on Santa Margarita Road, and there was a Clydesdale in a pasture which we visited a lot. Thing is, my mom's favorite song is 76 Trombones, and I remember I had the pleasure of being put in the formation of the marching band with the sousaphone or the baritone horn players, and I guess I was in the overflow of the clarinet section, which was fine with me because I got to hang out with all these funny guys, and they were always like making cow sounds with their tubas and joking around. So my section leader was kind of a grouch, and so I didn't have to be under her thumb all the time, which was pretty good. That was a pretty good look. This is called Trail Girls, and I went down to Willow Glen Road. There's a place where the horse people like to park their horse trailers and take hikes down. They take trail rides down in the water along the river. It's the Santa Margarita River. So one day I made arrangements and met up with the ladies who were riding that day, and my student, I had this lady Sue. She took piano for a while, and so then once I got my composition figured out that I wanted to have one horse going that way and one horse going that way, she took the time one day to do like an X, crisscrossing back and forth with her horse just for my sake, because I couldn't get the right position from the pictures I had taken from their trail ride. So she really did me a favor and took those positions over and over so that I could get just the right position. This takes place in Zion. This is a view of Zion from a hike that Randy and I took. It's called Feeding the Chickens. I had my mom pose for me, pretending like she was feeding chickens. And I got to feature my favorite animals, the pigs. And just, this is our studio entryway. And this is sort of like the background scene is down by Willow Glen Road, where we had a family that bought some of my paintings, the Komskis, and they had a menagerie of many animals. They had goats, sheep, bunnies, tortoises, parrots, horses, and they had alpacas. So anyway, that's kind of a memory of a combination of things. This is Yogi and Horatio, and we have our windmill right here. So this is pretty much like in the location that I'm painting. And these were my two children and Randy's. He picked him up at the San Jacinto shelter called the Ramona Humane Society, and he had this really bushy fur, and just, he was such an angel. He had the back leg, his back leg had been injured, and so one day he just kind of like just laid there and didn't get up, and then Randy had to take him to the doctor and get him x-rayed, and found out that his back leg had some bones fused together, so that caused him some arthritis later in life. But he was just such an angel, and they would sit on the couch together. Horatio was intact, so he was always humping Yogi. I would take him back and forth to Randy's house, and he had his own couch, and so Horatio, we got him as a puppy right here, right down here by this shed, by this tree. He was dropped off as a puppy with 3 kittens, and a girl up the hill took them all, and well, actually the kittens made their way up to our house, and we adopted them, although they did disappear after I got him fixed. And we went through a fire with the kittens and Horatio. We had them all in this little carrier together. We had to evacuate, and we had to stay at a friend's house for about 5 days. And so anyway, the girl that took the puppy, she took him up the hill, and he was covered with fleas, and she said, "Do you want a puppy?" And we were like, "We don't really need a dog." But then again, my dad had a second thought, like, you know what, he was a sweet little dog, and he arrived on our property, so maybe he's meant for us. And so we went up to get him, and she gave him a bath for his fleas, and my dad said, "What should we name him?" And then we got out the name book, and he put his finger on the book, and it pointed to Horatio. So he said, "Hey, that sounds like a good name, why not?" This is called Donkeys at Sunrise, and I actually got up early one morning and went up on the heights to photograph our friends Jim and Jackie Anderson's uh, donkeys which they had adopted, like rescued. And so they were like wild donkeys and they just roamed around their property. They had a big piece of land, about 10 acres, and they were feeding them carrots, and they were kind of large donkeys, like almost as big as horses. So I actually got a second prize on this at the Del Mar Fair in 2009. This is called Fiesta en la Hacienda. And so I love doing Ballet Folklorico paintings. And it was kind of interesting because this guy, um, who owned the house that I put in the background, I was painting at this thing called Wine and a Bite at Fallbrook in one of the local businesses, because they like to have artists standing around painting with their easels, which I don't enjoy doing that much because I don't like people watching me while I'm painting, but I said I would do it once. And so it was funny because this guy and his wife were sitting outside on a bench watching me paint as I was working on their house, and it was just a coincidence because they had their house on the garden tour for the AAUW, so people got to visit their house and take pictures of it. So anyway, I also featured a student that I had, Mateo, and he played saxophone. And so he was quite the heartthrob for a couple of my other girls that they enjoyed coming to the recitals because Mateo was going to be there. So anyway, and these are pictures I got from the Avocado Festival performances of Ballet Folklorico, Sitlali, and Esperanza.